Okay, I am thinking about pursuit, passion, and positioning. Pursuit, passion, and positioning. And already my nose is tingling. Like, pursuit, passion, and positioning. And this has just very naturally come up in conversation with a few of the people that I've worked with. And one of the conversations was about this person's instinctual perseverance and the way that that was an integral part of his spirit. It is a nature in him. It is a nature in him. And pursuit is there. Pursuit is there because this is how he breathes. It is natural, right? However, when the positioning is not anchored to or powered by deeply soul aligned passion, then we are flowing upstream and the movement feels like treading water, or we're inside of this river of resistance. And what do we do with that? Because this is my nature. And this is where I've heard other people that we've talked about this piece of me has been a curse to me in this lifetime. And I've heard people say that in terms of their scholarly or career aspirations or their level of intellect. Like these are gifts, and yet it's felt like it has been a curse. And this is what we're talking about, where we get into these neurodivergent burnout cycles of push, 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 pursuit, pursuit, pursuit. And we're doing that for 75% of the time. And then we hit a collapse, a fallout week. And some people might say, I needed that time. I needed that expression or that rest that happens in that week where we are experiencing the imbalanced energy of being actively in pursuit inside of a river of resistance that is not sustainable and is not life giving. It's not life giving. And so the equilibrium we hit is not balance, it's this kind of rubber banding effect, right? Where then we drop into hypo arousal and we are just kind of numbed out, dissociated, overwhelmed, shut down for a week. Then we enter right back into the beginning of that cycle and push, push, pursuit, 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 because it is in my nature. It's in my nature. I know I have this natural gift and energy of perseverance, and there's something about that that I take pride in, and I deserve to take pride in that. But boy, when we are able to release conditioning, internalized expectations that are actually out of alignment with the soul based passion, the purpose, the passion. We need that purpose and passion as the oar that rotates that boat around so we can move in this stream of super consciousness. And now the very same thing that felt like a curse to you in this lifetime of this part of my nature makes my life very challenging is now the currency that is carrying you in a way that feels like my very nature is what is fueling the pursuit. And now the very word pursuit drops out of the equation as it is transmuted into presence here in this stream of superconsciousness where our nature is moving with the flow that has always been meant to be the wind in the sail on this journey that we're on as we're in alignment with soul purpose, with higher path, with the passion that is meant to be powering this journey. Then somehow it feels like I'm so much more filled with life force energy, with love. I'm giggling because my crystal light over here is like flickering wildly as I'm talking about this, and it says pure enrichment is the name of it. Pure, the purity and the truth that comes online when your mission is positioned and backed by the passion and the purpose that belongs to you. What a big difference between having that trip be funded by presence versus being pushed by pursuit. And people will ask me this. A lot of different clients that I have will end up asking me this at one point or another, and particularly after they've had a really beautiful session where there's been a lot of spiritual energy channeled and psychic mediumship that's come through because of the awe, the AWE inside of the energy that they're feeling that feels amplified, elevated, and just nourishing, right? The human mind is so programmed around the push of pursuit and transactional dynamics of giving and taking that people then respond in their most beautiful sessions at the close to say, how does this affect you? Are you incredibly burnt out at the end of your work week? And I say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It fuels me. I love this. The awe that you're leaving with from what you just received is the same awe that I have been gifted as well. I am experiencing this alongside of you, though I am serving in this role as a conductor or a channel. The purity of the energy that is moving through me is serving me. And this is the phrasing of, are you serving it or is it serving you? And this passion, this purpose allows me to be so fully in presence. I'm not planning, I'm not prepping, I'm not pursuing. I am living my dream. I'm living it. I'm right here in it. I'm in presence. And my capacity to be in that stream of consciousness, in that flow, as I have dropped the oars and said, Spirit, take the lead, has like, that is the very, I don't know which came first here. It's just so hard to say. This is all happening in such a harmonious dance as I have been carried into this positioning in my life. And so I say, in a career I've had in the past, yeah, I'd be burnt out at the end of the week. I would. After sitting through administrative meetings where I am very much pushing up against river of resistance, that was life draining. This that I do now is life giving. I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world. And so we are learning as we come into wholeness, the ways in which there is a flicker and a familiarity and a taste of something pure that has always belonged to us. And now we just go, ah, that's what it was. I saw it trying to show itself in those avenues. It just felt and looked completely different because it was going upstream instead of with the flow of the water, instead of being carried in the current of life force energy. And now that I am in alignment, the pursuit has shifted into passion that allows for presence. And I am filled with light and love. Yeah, I think that we're wanting to talk about part of the integration that happens as we come into wholeness, and that coming into the wholeness where we have healed all of the formerly fractured pieces of ourselves start to be invited back into the center of our lives. And so this is not about noticing shadowy parts of ourselves or noticing wounded areas, or when we talk about this in terms of internal family systems parts, right? This is not about identifying parts that are no longer needed or are problematic, because we are not interested in creating even more division by thinking that the answer is to push out certain parts. It makes sense when I say that way. So obviously, the more you try to push out certain parts, the more divided and fractured your energy field is going to be. And so it is, how do we create such a level of emotional safety, compassion, warmth, and love for all of these parts of ourselves, so that there is an element of emotional safety at the center of the table that says, you deserve a seat here. I'm going to open the closet that you have been um, quartered off to, right? And I'm going to open that closet where you've been quartered off to, and this closet, so that these parts don't feel like they are waiting for their turn. And in some ways, that naturally creates a competing for space energy, which all of that just sounds so divisive, doesn't it? Because it is. That's why it's parts. The coexistence element, the coexistence is the bedrock of beginning to pull together all of these parts that have been given their own placeholder and their own positioning on the perimeter of our existence. And now our whole energy field is just like it went through, a glass that kind of split the light and fractured it into these different segments, right? And so we're not looking to see, what, this part of me is no longer needed. So how do I fire it? It's more, and I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and it was so beautiful. It was more like hey, come over here, come a little closer, come to the table. And the part of self that was very responsible for fear and self protection inches toward the table, where they see this new glowy being at the center. And that oversoul energy that's now at the center that has really shown up does a meet and greet, right? And says, look at you, to this fractured part that has been responsible for hypervigilance and this fear response in order to protect us. The fire extinguisher, I think, is the role that's called in IFS. So this part comes to the table with our oversoul and is greeted with a badge of honor. It is held in high standing, and it is thrown a retirement party and given a Hawaiian shirt to wear. Love, love, love. Like, wow, you did it. You did it. Amazing work. Amazing work. Coming in to me. and melting into love. And this is where the way in which we invited integration rather than pushing out something that we're identifying as a problem now is the very thing that alchemizes, and we see this part merge into oneness with us. And suddenly the the name tag on the outside of the door, like that whole door just divides, and it's like the internal structure of our mind and our consciousness, right, is getting renovated when each of these parts of us start to feel they don't need their own room. Then we're knocking down those walls and we're getting a really nice, flowy, open floor layout in this home here. And does that feel good? And that homecoming energy, the integration of the parts of us that we called a curse, that we called a blessing in disguise, that we said, this is a part of my nature, but it's not serving me the way that it should, and it has caused pain. So I built it its own room with walls because I don't trust it to be out here with me all the time. And I need to really contain these various aspects of self in their own corridors. Yeah? That shift, that remodel, that reconstruction, that homecoming energy. This is what allows us to suddenly move from upstream in that river of resistance to we're being carried in a currency all of a sudden. And every part of us that we thought was broken was just waiting for an invitation to come out of the room and enter into an integrated state of being so that we can experience the level of wholeness and self-trust where there are no aspects of self that are forbidden or have been deemed as unsafe or untrustworthy. And this is the kind of emotional safety that garners a grounded, centered peace and anchored inner union where our worth, our well being, our sense of safety is not positioned outside of our own truth of our beingness and relying on a reflection that we see in an exterior reality, which is going to be so fluid that you'll have just constant in and out of nervous system activation if that's where we're looking to receive our sense of being rescued or our invitations to constantly being called into a hypervigilance where we are having to gauge what doors of our inner world can be open and which ones to close. And then we're just playing this awful version of like musical chairs, but it's with these musical IFS parts of these pieces of ourselves that have been, again, like I've said before, pushed to the perimeters of our own existence.